Hey everybody, it is John Voorhees and
Brendon Bigley. Hello.
Brendon Bigley, yes, we are here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Look out the window.
There's a sphere behind us.
A sphere,
Yeah.
a Ferris wheel, and
Yeah, over John's shoulder. The Delta CEO is giving a speech in the sphere as we are recording.
what he's talking about, we have no idea. I mean, what is techie about Delta Airlines? I don't know.
I don't know. AI planes, John.
Oh no.
That's probably what it is, right? Like realistically.
Well, given what we've seen this week, yes, absolutely AI. So we've been here for, I guess, 3 days now, roughly.
3 days, yeah.
We came in on Sunday afternoon and didn't do a lot the first day. The first day was something called Unveiled. The first few days of CES are press only. And so we went to this thing called Unveiled over at Mandalay Bay, which was kind of like a mini CES. It had a very small subset of the vendors who were showing off gadgets here.
It felt like now that's what I call CES in some ways. Where it seemed like who is it? CTE is the name of the company?
Yeah, I think so.
It's an unfortunate name for a company.
Yeah.
Anyway, CTE, who runs CES, just kind of picked their favorite companies and then just kind of put them in a smaller version of the rest of CES.
With hors d'oeuvres and drinks. But,
which was nice.
Yeah,
John and I just chugged like 8 water bottles.
It is dry here.
Yeah.
We've been very thirsty. I've never had so much water in 2 days as I've had in Las Vegas.
A lot of water.
But that's also because we've been walking around a lot. But Unveiled was, I will say, a little underwhelming. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point when we were leaving that, gadgets are here in a big way, which is nice. And there were a lot of gadgets, and there were all the hits. There were like all the things that I expected to see at CES, like the robot dog and the guitar with no strings, like the Roomba that picks up clothes,
and the weird, creepy, fuzzy robotic animals that have big eyes.
Right. Everyone thinks that a robot will be your pet still in 2025.
Yes.
Despite what Sony tried and failed at, however many decades ago that was at this point.
A long time ago.
Yeah. But Unveiled was, I think, like good to find. It was nice to meet a couple people whose booths we wanted to go check out.
Yeah, it was. It was. I think the problem was for me was that it was overwhelmed by the venue because they were just people were showing off not in full blown booths but at little tables in kind of a reception atmosphere, which I don't know, just seemed a little off to me. But in any event, that was how we got our week started on Sunday evening. And then on Monday, another press day, it was time for CEOs to tell us about AI, basically.
Yeah, that was like the whole kit and caboodle. Everyone's talking about Adobe Illustrator out here. No, everyone's talking about artificial intelligence. Who did we go see? We saw Samsung, which was like...
And we saw AMD.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about Samsung. But we did see AMD. AMD just, they revealed a bunch of new chips in like a moderately sized conference room, which will be important in a minute.
Yeah.
And honestly, pretty impressive. They had some good stuff.
Yeah.
I think I walked away from that feeling like we are pretty close to an actual second generation of handheld PCs.
I think so. I mean, it sounds like those chips are right around the corner, and people are working on even, improving some of this like mid-generation stuff that we've been seeing.
Yeah.
And
Q1 was the release date for all those chips.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's now.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in that.
Those folks will be Lenovo's, and everybody else will be working on their handhelds for the end of the year. I would think for the next holiday season.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is nice. Yeah, a lot of the upgrades that we saw, at least from AMD, were pretty much like, the Z2 is kind of the chip that is the exciting chip.
Yes.
The Z2 is about comparable power-wise with the Z1 Extreme, which is the chip that's in like the ROG Ally X,
right.
And I think the higher spec version of the base Ally. But they're about comparable in power. The big difference is the power. The battery drain from the Z2 is way lower, which is nice. I mean, that's going to be huge. But there's a Z2 Extreme as well, and I feel like the Z2 Extreme is going to be like the one.
Oh, yeah, I think it will be. I mean, one of the things that was interesting, though, with some of these new AMD chips is that at the lower end of the power spectrum, consumption-wise, it's higher than the lower end of the existing chips. So one of the things I saw, and one of the comments I saw was that perhaps if you're playing, simpler indie games or emulating, that you actually may be getting a worse power draw from those chips. Going forward, because they're like the minimum I think is 15 watts, whereas the Z1 is like 8 or 9.
Oh, it's 8. Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out in terms of specs. I know Brendon doesn't want to talk about Samsung, but the funniest thing I ever have seen, two things. Smart things for ships.
Yes.
We actually saw home automation for your yacht, for your mega yacht.
We saw a Samsung executive get heckled when he said that you could have AI on your ship, which I was so thrilled by.
Yeah,
it was so funny.
And you can take phone calls from your washer dryer.
Yeah.
That was actually a thing that they said would make your life easier and simpler.
I wrote a whole piece about the Samsung press conference. It's like I tried to keep an open mind coming to CES. I didn't want to be like...
It's very hard not to be a little jaded here.
Yes.
Because you get your skeptical lenses come on very fast.
Cynical press brain, makes me want to second guess everything that's happening. And man, Samsung did not really allow me to turn that part of my brain off.
No, they really didn't.
It was firing on all cylinders.
They weren't. And then, I think NVIDIA didn't do themselves any favors either.
NVIDIA was so weird.
It was weird. It started out really well because basically, their CEO got up there and said you can have the equivalent of a 4090 for $549.
Right.
Which that's a 4090 is a $1,600 GPU. And
I think it was something to the effect of like, why buy one when you can have three?
Yeah, exactly. It's not exactly a 4090 because what's happening is that instead of being like a hardware thing, it's using DLSS 4, which is their big new, upscaling engine to get to what is the equivalent of the performance of the 4090 through this cheaper GPU. But the fact that they do have an option that starts at that price point is going to make it a lot more affordable for a lot of people, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah. I think to your point, what he said was something to the effect of for every 3 million pixels the graphics card is pushing, they're actually only rendering 2 million of them. And the
35 million pixels. There was 2 million pixels that are being rendered, and then a total of 35 million pixels. The rest of it's all AI, and that's kind of where that kicked off a very long, elaborate discussion and explanation about training large language models and all the ways that you can use AI with NVIDIA cards and chips and things.
To John's point, the press conference started well because it was like, you're here for graphics cards. Here's the graphics cards. Guess what? They're cheaper than you think they are. Okay, here's 45 minutes of a robot inventing a steering wheel because physical AI is the future.
And some things that, were spun very positively, but were very dark, I thought.
Yeah.
In terms of just like, here's whole swaths of the economy that can be replaced with AI bots instead of humans.
Right.
So we got tired of that and left a little early.
We just bailed, yeah.
We had a good dinner, though. We got a great dinner out of it.
Yeah. Look, I'll say this about Vegas. The food's pretty good.
It is.
Which I guess you would hope it would be, considering how expensive everything is here, right? People are coming here to spend money.
It is.
You might as well get something good out of it.
The entire place is designed to just empty your wallet as quickly as possible. The hotel rooms don't even have coffee machines in them. They want you to go downstairs and buy a $15 coffee.
I assumed the whole place was a grift. I didn't.
It really is.
Pleasantly surprised to find that the food isn't. The food
isn't. The food is legit.
Yeah.
So those were the press days. And today, though, we were walking the show floor, which I think we covered nearly 8 miles walking today.
We did. By the time we got back, it was 8 miles.
Yeah, it is. It's just the convention center is in a bunch of different halls, several different halls, and these buildings are just massive. I mean, these are like airplane hangars. They're massive places for all these booths, and you walk in and they're vaguely organized by topic, but kind of not too.
They say they are, but you're just wandering.
You're just wandering, and every now and then you'll walk into an area and it's like, here are all the electronics companies from Romania, and here's Japan, and here's Italy, and that was a little different. That was odd, but we spent a lot of time in the gaming area, obviously, and we saw some pretty cool stuff there. Some unexpected things. I think the most unexpected thing was when we went to the GameSir booth and checked out their controllers. You wrote about this on Wavelengths.
Yeah, so. We had some meetings early in the morning, and one of the first ones was with GameSir, and it was basically just like, hey, we have a bunch of new controllers that are coming out. They have a controller called the Tarantula that's coming out. There's the GameSir, what is it, the 7 Pro, right? I
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, which, just looks like kind of an Xbox Elite controller with like a nice dock on it. The Tarantula is kind of like a wide looking.
Yeah, it felt like a really good controller. I mean, it's a very nice premium controller, I think. But
the person there, they're talking us through the Tarantula and the 7 Pro, and we're just like chatting. And I'm just like slowly looking at the table that's in front of us.
What's this?
And I was like, what is that thing? And it was, I could kind of tell what it was, but I needed them to tell me because I had never seen it before, and it looked kind of old and beat up.
It looked like a Game Boy,
which I thought was
like half of a Game Boy.
It looked like half of a Game Boy, and I was immediately like, I think I know what that is, but I've never seen anyone sell anything that looks like that.
Yeah.
So I need somebody to explain it to me. And somebody came up, and basically what it was like the bottom half of a Game Boy, as you were saying, with a divot in it, so you could take your phone and you could put it over here, so it covers like the bottom half of the screen.
It was
basically.
like a U-shaped device with a hinge on the bottom.
So there's like a piece here, and it had a D-pad, and then the face buttons, and like a Bluetooth connector, and I think it was another button. I forget what it was for. And then on the back were the analog, or not the analog, sorry, the shoulder buttons. L2 and R2. And basically, you would just put your phone in it, and then you would just play it like a Game Boy. And the back also is a battery, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
The whole thing connects via Bluetooth. It seemed wide enough to kind of, I don't think it's going to be iPhone specific. It seems like it's going to work with iPhone and Android, if I was to guess.
Yeah, because the sides were open, so it could fit multiple sizes of phones, I think. So that was kind of cool. And it had some styling that was very much reminiscent of the Game Boy, the speaker grills.
Yes.
And on one side, you noticed that they were LEDs, which were presumably to show how charged up your battery is, I would think.
Which, that thing stole my heart immediately.
Yeah, it was really cool.
As soon as I saw it. The reason it looked old and beat up, by the way, just to close that loop, is because it's a prototype. It's not out yet.
Yeah.
They don't even have a name for it. It's just a thing.
They told us, please don't break it, basically.
Yeah.
He said it was a little fragile.
Yeah. They also said it was a spring break project made real, which I loved. But yeah, apparently it's going to launch into some kind of crowdfunding campaign.
Soon.
Relatively soon. And then it's going to launch sometime in April, March or April, I think is what they're shooting for, which is very ambitious. But I'm excited about it. I mean, this is a thing that you and I and Federico have talked about a lot on NPC, and is a thing I've written about a lot on Wavelengths. But post emulators on iOS, suddenly it becomes really possible to not make every single mobile controller just a telescopic backbone one.
Exactly. We have so many of those, and a lot of them are good, but we're really seeing people start to experiment, which is what I think is really
And my problem is I'm never going to put one of those in my pocket. Even the backbone one, which is probably the smallest.
It's the smallest of them, but it's still too big to put in your pocket.
It feels wild to put it in my pocket.
Yeah.
So I would never do that. This thing, on the other hand, I'm totally fine if my iPhone just becomes a Game Boy and Game Boy Advance machine, and I just use that thing to play those two.
Yeah,
consoles.
it was no thicker than your phone, I don't think. It was about, it was the size of half of a phone and about as thick, I would say. So who knows what the final product will look like. But just even in the prototype, it looked really pretty neat.
I left my Ambernick SP in my hotel room, but I mean, it's small. It's smaller than that.
Oh, it's a lot smaller than that, yeah, at least in terms of the thickness.
And that thing is already in my pocket every single day. So, if I could shrink it down, I will.
Speaking of pocketable handheld controllers, we saw the MCon controller, which is unbelievable. I mean, they had it behind glass, unfortunately. We didn't actually put our hands on it, but they had packaging.
Yeah.
And they had the thing in both black and white on display. It has, if you've seen the videos on Reddit or the Kickstarter, which is, I think they had a Kickstarter ticker going over their booth. They were at about $800,000 while we were there. But it's the thing that magnetically attaches to the back of your phone. You slide it up. It snaps into place with a little thing that holds everything together and props it up, and it exposes, when you do that, it reveals the face buttons and the sticks and the D-pad, and then it has fold-out grips, which I think are a smart move. The original prototypes that were prepared didn't have that.
Yeah.
And I think is nice about that, because this is going to be relatively top-heavy. I think it'll help balance the entire thing.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, been following the journey of this for a long time. I wrote a very snarky piece about this the first time it was posted on Reddit, because it was just cobbled together, which I was excited about it, to be clear, because I've just always wanted some kind of PSP Go mechanic for my phone. I think that's a great idea. Yeah. But that said, this thing, with the help of OSnap, which is I think the production partner now, it looked so, real is a weird way of putting it, but it looked legit.
It looked polished.
Yes.
It really looked polished. I mean, look, we haven't put our hands on it, so we don't really know what the finish is exactly like. But it did look like a completed product that you would, pick up at a store. I mean, if you saw it on display in a store, it would look like that.
Yeah.
And this, for people who don't know, this was designed by a guy who I think is like 19, at least when he first put it together, and he's been working to refine the prototype over many months now, and finally got together with OSnap that has done some other things within the mobile phone space, doing kind of like pop socket type things, I think, for phones.
Yeah.
Based in Raleigh, North Carolina, not too far from where I live. And yeah, they're moving forward really fast. I think that the Kickstarter says that it's supposed to come out in August. So it's going to be a while yet, but it was really neat to talk to them and hear a little bit about what's going on.
It's far away. It's soon. It's everything in between. But it is the real deal. Like, it seemed like the real deal. Again, we didn't get hands-on with it, but even just the look of it, I was like, that's a thing I'm going to buy and put in my pocket, definitely.
Yeah, and it's nice to see that there's like an established company that has some manufacturing expertise behind it as well now.
This gets back to a thing we've talked about all the time on the show also, which is, in a world where all of these emulators exist on your phone, the only real reason to get something like a kind of a smaller entry-level portable handheld really is just physical buttons. And as soon as you can find a way that is just as pocketable to make it feel as good to use your iPhone as it does to use something like the SP or the Trim UI Brick or the Miyoo Mini or whatever.
Right. And you've already got your phone with you, and it's an amazing screen. I mean, so
it's going to be a significantly better screen than anything you will find from Ambernick anytime soon, realistically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what else do you want to talk about? JSAW, maybe? We were at the JSAW booth. We saw some interesting prototypes of Nintendo Switch 2 accessories.
Yeah, they showed us two Switch 2 accessories. The first was just like a piece of tempered glass that is just like...
It's a screen protector.
It was just a screen protector for the Switch.
It gave us an idea of what the screen was going to be size-wise, I guess.
Which was very funny, because it was...
we didn't bring a ruler with us.
Yeah. He just handed us a piece of glass. It was like, this is the Switch 2 screen. It's like, this is glass. But the other thing they showed us, which I thought was very interesting, was just their first mold for a case.
Yeah. Very unfinished. It was like kind of semi-transparent.
And notably, because I posted a picture of it in my Discord, and a bunch of people responded that were like, "There's no cutout for the kickstand in this thing."
Yeah,
which it didn't even occur to me while you were holding it.
I saw someone say that to you on Threads.
Yeah,
yeah,
so funny. But the thing that was interesting to me was it felt more ergonomic than I was expecting.
Yeah,
that's all we know.
Yeah, that's really all we know. Yeah, and they had some other neat stuff in their booth. They have these screens that you can attach to the sides of your laptop to have multiple monitors, things like that.
It's like a whole system that they built, so you can just kind of put screens wherever you want.
And we played around with the Game Baby a little bit, which is the case for the iPhone that splits into two. The bottom half you flip around, put it on the face of your phone, and then you have buttons that work with a Delta skin that they've created for playing games. And the buttons are a little mushy. The whole device is a little fiddly. Yeah. I'm really not sold that this is anything more yet than a clever hack.
Yeah.
But
that's kind of my feeling.
We'll see. It's still in prototype phase.
Yeah. If they can, maybe a second generation of this or something, but if they can find some way to give the buttons a little bit more of a click to it, a little bit more of a satisfying feeling. Because right now it really does feel like you're just kind of poking a pillow in a couple different specific spots. And then also, I think specifically, the fact that you can only use it with Delta and only with a specific skin is a little bit of a deal breaker in some ways.
Yeah, it really is.
I was thinking about everything else that we're using.
Yeah. I actually have a prototype at home too that they sent me right before CES, and that was the first problem I had was I didn't have the skin right away. Yeah. And I tried it with one of my Delta skins I already had from Sean Fletcher, and it just doesn't work because it's just like the buttons are in the wrong place.
The buttons need to be in that exact spot versus something like the GameSir thing that we saw, which is just Bluetooth and will work with everything.
Right, exactly.
Or the MCon, which is Bluetooth and will work with everything.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, what that was interesting about the MCon that I didn't know. They said that you can also plug it in with a cable.
Yes.
Which I thought that was really cool. I had not heard that.
Yeah.
Or if I had heard it, I had forgotten it. So that was pretty neat. Today we also saw the Lenovo Legion Go S.
Yeah.
Yeah. S is in super speedy. No, S is in Steam.
SteamOS.
SteamOS.
Yeah,
SteamOS.
Valve made a couple announcements. The first was, the Legion Go S will be the first device that is not the Steam Deck to have SteamOS officially on it. That's going to launch sometime in May. The second announcement they made, which I'm sure if I was at Lenovo I'd be so mad about, is that they're launching SteamOS in like an early access version of SteamOS for other Windows-based handhelds and just other devices in general in like March.
Yeah, that's soon. It's like 8 weeks away, 10 weeks away, something like that.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. That was really interesting to see. It's going to be interesting. I mean, we saw some other things with Steam and Valve that were announced, such as GeForce Now is going to have a dedicated app on SteamOS now. I mean, you can run a script and it's not too hard to get it installed using the Linux desktop on a Steam Deck now. But this will make it easier for people to have, it'll be a dedicated app.
I'm going to use that.
Yeah. The GeForce Now is going to be available on the Vision Pro too, which I thought was pretty cool. It was not really clear how that's going to work. Because you can't have. I mean, the thing with GeForce Now on an iPhone or an iPad is you have to do a PWA web app on your home screen. You can't do that on the Vision Pro. So either Apple's changing the Vision Pro the way that works, or GeForce Now is going to change so that it doesn't require a PWA. But we don't really know yet. Federico wrote about that a little bit on Mac Stories today.
Yeah, but I'll say for the Legion Go S, I was a little bit skeptical about it before checking it out. And honestly, I'm still kind of skeptical about it.
It's a good entry point price, right?
Yes, the price is
$500.
Oh, the price is maybe not even right still, but we'll talk about it in a second. Yeah. The specs are like fine. It is built to be an entry-level device, I think is the intention. It's the intention of the thing. It's built to be entry-level. It's built to be the first device that has SteamOS, I think specifically so they can say that in a press release. In actuality, that price is really close to a Steam Deck.
It is. I would have been happier if it was like $400.
Yeah.
Because it would be closer to something like the Anode and Portal, for instance, which you can stream games on and do other Android games and other things on it. So
I don't know. It was kind of weird. I will say though, so in favor of the Legion Go S, it feels awesome.
Yeah, it really does. I mean,
it's
lighter and it's more compact. It's not as wide.
Yeah.
Because it's only an 8-inch screen, and the grips just felt really good to me. They're more rounded, I think, maybe than typical Steam Deck,
Yeah, I think the Steam Deck is really interesting just because it's basically like a flat panel with like with
things on the sides,
almost like horns, that you hold on to.
Right.
And I've been using the ROG Ally X from Asus a bunch recently, and like that thing, it is more ergonomic than the original Ally was. It is still not ergonomic, I would say. I haven't had any issues with it at all. I know some people have had issues with it. I haven't had any issues with it personally, but even I going from the Steam Deck to the Ally X, it's like, it is notably different. And I think the Legion Go S is like somewhere in between those two, where it is not as comfortable as the Steam Deck, but it is definitely more comfortable than the Ally X in a major way. But that's also a device, where I think the chip in there makes it feel like the Ally X and the MSI Claw AI 8 Plus or whatever that's called. We're all in that like mid-generation upgrade cycle, which I think is very interesting. Because truly, one of the things I've been mulling over a lot recently is, there's a mid-generation upgrade cycle for consoles, and that takes like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
PCs obviously update so quickly. Every year at CES, AMD and NVIDIA show up with new chips, and Intel shows up with new chips.
Right.
So there's going to be new chips every single year. Hypothetically, these devices will be upgraded much more frequently than that. But, the Steam Deck came out in 2022, February of 2022. It's like 3 years old already. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing. It just feels like yesterday to me still.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Maybe that's because I got the OLED model. But,
that would do it.
Speaking of Asus, we saw something that surprised both of us, I think, which is the
biggest router you've ever seen.
Well, that too. This thing,
what I'm talking.
Saying it was as big as a pizza box doesn't even do it justice, because it's like a pizza box that has crab legs.
Yeah. It looks sentient, that thing.
It's huge.
Yeah.
We have a picture.
It's freaky.
With
my hand's in it,
so you can get a little bit of scale.
Sorry, I cut you off. You're talking about something real.
No, I was talking about their computer, their tablet, which is what I had to write it down because it's one of those names.
It's the ROG Z Flow 2, 3?
Flow Z13.
Flow Z13.
Yeah, and so it's...
Wow, I was way off.
They had something like this before, I guess, but this is a refinement of it.
Yeah.
It's 13-inch screen, magnetically attachable keyboard. It just looks amazing. It had a great screen. I mean, it's pitched as a gaming device, but it's also a productivity device because it's very much in the, like a iPad Pro, I suppose, really.
Yeah.
But it's got, it's a thick thing compared to like an iPad because it's got all sorts of inputs along the sides. It's got a line of vents
I
up
would
on
say
the top.
it's like the thickness of your iPad with
With the keyboard
case
case on it, yes. Although that was before you closed up the Asus and put its keyboard
on it. Yeah, you're right.
So it was just the tablet part was that thick, and it had a row of heat vents up the top. And while they were playing games, we were putting our hands up there, and it was blowing pretty hard.
Yeah, but we were playing what was it, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart on that.
Yeah,
it looked ridiculously good.
Yeah,
it looked like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's because the screen was small. It looked like PS5 good, which I was.
Yeah.
Really blown away. I mean, I played that game on PS5. I thought it was really impressive on PS5.
Right.
It did not look any different to me playing in that room on basically every new chip that we saw announced. You know, it was like that thing was just stacked with every chip that we saw announced in a keynote. And I mean, that thing is so compelling. It's like dangerously. You and I were both just like, we shouldn't have looked at this.
No, because we didn't even see it at first in the Asus room.
Yeah,
we saw it in AMD's.
The AMD room.
AMD's actually was the perfect place to go because that's where we saw the Lenovo Legion Go S first too.
Yeah.
Because then we went to the Asus booth and there was a guy there doing essentially an entire walkthrough YouTube video.
Yeah.
we were kind of denied access.
Yeah,
to the Z13.
We were like patiently waiting to check the thing out, and
he just kept going and going and going. It's like doing one of these videos, but in a booth, which I think is rude. I'm telling you.
Maybe. Yeah. But I will say, MSI, we tried to go see MSI.
Yes.
Couldn't get in. They didn't let us in.
Stopped at the door by the bouncers.
Yeah. Lenovo had about 6 booths. None of them...
They were all private.
Yeah, they were all private, so you couldn't get into any of them. Shout out to AMD for letting us in and showing us all the things we couldn't see.
And Razer.
Razer also let us in.
So Razer...
Oh, we should talk about Razer.
We should. It was a capital G gamer action going on. There was RGB literally everywhere. Including
that was the thing they kept bringing up in the sales pitch, too, for every device was like how...
Look at how good our RGB is. But they had a chair. I mean, this isn't the thing we want to talk about, but the chair, I read about it more after I came back. It heats and cools you as you sit in it.
Ooh.
And it has this piping, which is all RGB that runs up and down the length of the seams of the chair. It's like a desk chair, but it's got, it's heated and cooled like it might
the guy
be
there
for
called
your
it the
car.
Tron chair.
Yeah, he did. But the thing that was neat that I had no idea about and I haven't seen written about anywhere yet, and I'm planning to write about it, is that they have a new PC remote play app that works with Windows, Android, and iOS and iPadOS. And the idea is you are locally streaming a game from your gaming PC to any of these other devices. And the hook that they have, the thing that's a little different about this from something like, for instance, maybe doing Moonlight, is that they are able to detect kind of the native resolution of the device that you're playing on remotely so that you don't end up with black bars, tops or bottoms or sides, whatever. And so they showed it off with an iPhone and an iPad mini to us.
Yeah.
And they were playing a game off of a Windows PC and it looked fantastic, filled the whole screen.
Yeah.
It was nice and sharp, and it could be a really interesting way to play games on a local network.
It was basically a widescreen monitor on the iPhone, and then on the iPad it was whatever that resolution is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was just very impressive seeing how quickly he was able to jump back and forth also between those devices. It was like pretty immediate.
Yes, because it saves your spot where you are on one device and you pick it up on the other device and you're right where you left off.
My big question is it Razer exclusive? Like, do you need a Razer PC to use it, like as the home base for streaming?
I don't.
Or is it just an app that you can download onto any PC?
It is an app that you can just download off the App Store. I did that when I came back to the room. And it does require you to have the Nexus app. Have you ever seen that? That's there. That's a little bit like the Backbone. You know how the Backbone has like that catalog app where it's a catalog of all your games on your device? It's like that. It's improved a lot. It was really rough when it first came out. But you need to have those two apps in combo on your device to make it run. But I don't have a PC, gaming PC here in Las Vegas to try it out, so I'm not sure about...
I guess I technically do.
You've got
I have,
we
I have the
gotta
Ally X with me.
run some experiments after we finish recording.
Give it a shot. Yeah, I wonder if it's just a thing that you can download for any PC, or if you need to have a Razer device
Yeah, I kind of hope that it's
somewhere in the stack to make it work.
Yeah, I thought he said that you don't need it, but you know,
be nice.
Who knows?
It was very impressive, though.
It would definitely help because the thing for them is it'll help them do things like sell that Razer Kishi Ultimate and their other Razer Kishi devices. It's just part of an ecosystem that'll
because it used like the
hardware
haptics and the Kishi and stuff.
Yeah,
which was really impressive.
Yeah, it'll just kind of drive the sales of all of that stuff, which I think is good. Razer Kishi Ultimate being a very good controller, but a very chunky controller.
Yeah, and I will say, as somebody who's been using Moonlight a bit more recently, that looked a lot easier to use. Moonlight is pretty good. Don't get me wrong. I like it.
There is some setup and fiddling that you have to
do. It can get weird every once in a while. Just opening and closing things at random.
Yeah, that was pretty cool though. So I don't know. Was there anything else that we saw today that we should talk about?
Just like a million battery banks, a million iPhone cases. We saw a couple controllers here and there, There was one, I don't have the name of the company, which is not going to be helpful, but there was one controller that I really liked, which maybe I'll find the name. We can put it in the show notes.
It was a little bit like an Xbox Elite controller type of thing.
Yeah.
We saw the LG, they always have a nice booth. They had some really beautiful TVs, and they have this concept of TV that has like a shoulder strap on it. So you can hang it on the wall, or you can, it has kickstand, and you can put it on like your coffee table. It's smallish. I think it was maybe 30 inches or something like that.
I loved their like 60-inch monitor that had a button where you pressed it and then it went wah, and it became a curved monitor and then it bent back. It's like this huge really cool OLED panel.
We also saw the transparent OLED TV, which was a really weird thing to see. Yeah. But also not something that I think is in most people's budgets.
The thing about the transparent OLED TV that is worth mentioning, and it never really occurred to me until actually seeing it in person, because I've seen it at like every CES roundup for the past 3 years, because it's just like you could buy it, I guess, technically, but it's basically a concept just to show off.
Right. You can buy that or buy a new car. One of the two.
Yes, exactly. The thing I didn't realize about it is that the idea of the transparent OLED TV is that the black pixels are transparent. Yeah. Which is bizarre, because if you have the transparent TV in front of anything, then suddenly the background is constantly present at all times.
Right, and it was obviously they had a white wall behind this one, so it didn't.
If anything, it's really a selling point for not making a transparent TV.
Yeah, because if it was anywhere where you had anything, I think
sun coming into the room.
I think in the real world home, you'd have all kinds of cables back there, so you'd be seeing all your bad cable management, and the sun coming in through your windows.
That'd be brutal.
Yeah, it could be pretty rough. But
what was the name of the glasses company we looked at?
Oh yeah, Rockhead. Rockhead was really good. We sat down and did a little bit of a demo there, and I had never tried their product before. It had a couple of dials on the top of here that you could do to adjust, because you can't wear, I took off my glasses and I was able to focus on the screen using those. I think it was a 1080p display.
Yeah, so this is basically like, the X-Real
X-Real Air and Pro.
So the idea is like you're putting on a pair of sunglasses, and when you're looking through it, you're actually seeing a monitor in front of your eyes. Yeah. Which, there are a lot of companies doing that. This is the first time I'd heard of this company. This is the first time I'd tried any of their stuff. It was impressive.
It was impressive.
Really
I liked it. I thought it was really good. I had heard of them before, but I'd never really done much research on them, and I thought it was a really nice demo. I mean, it was. I thought it was going to be hard to sit down in that chair and get up and running very quickly, but I just did a couple of little adjustments to the glasses, and I was ready to go. So it was really good.
It was really fast. Yeah. Of course, they made us play Black Myth Wukong, which neither of us had ever played before. So we're sitting there just like trying to figure out what the controls are,
jumping around. Oh, here's how I hit the guy.
But yeah, really, really impressive set of glasses, which I think, for a lot of these places, and this is kind of the beauty of CES, we now have contacts at a lot of these companies, so we can get some of this stuff in to test out, which will be nice. So when that gets closer to something that we can actually try out, we can, report back. But I will say that is a product category that I'm really, no pun intended, keeping an eye on, because just generally speaking, having had the Lenovo ones for a very brief amount of time, I get the appeal of them.
Yeah.
I just need the price to come down a little bit.
Right. I mean, because you can plug them into anything that has video out, basically, and use them, with that, whether it's a handheld, gaming thing or whatever it happens to be. So.
Yeah. I plugged mine into the Iron Odin 2 when I had it, which was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great. I'd probably use it with the Ally X. Yeah. I'm very interested in that, especially as somebody who is playing a lot of Metaphor Refantasio before bed, in my bed with my fiance. I think having those glasses, hopefully we'll still get married after I get the glasses.
Asus, by the way, also had a really cool eGPU.
Yeah.
It was about the size of a hardback book, I would say.
Yeah.
But it looked...
Actually, I would say like almost exactly this big.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, and thicker, though. But it was...
Yeah.
It had some pretty good specs that looked like Thunderbolt 5, I believe.
Yeah.
And, I'd really like to see that at some point as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
The eGPU space. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Good with the handhelds.
Very dangerous.
It is. I got a perfect spot right in the end of my couch where I could put that thing.
Oh, man.
And,
and then we could be like Federico, and we could all have the King cable.
Oh, if only. There is a faux King cable here from OWC. OWC seems to have cut a deal with the King cable people because the cable is the same kind of length USB 4 cable that's based on fiber optic cabling, and it even has the same like connector designs and coloring, just different branding. So
interesting.
You're going to be able to get those. You too can have a cable like Federico a lot easier now just by contacting OWC. You won't have to be emailing back and forth with people in China. For multiple weeks.
My final update is that we did use exactly one retro emulation handheld from a company I'd never heard of, and it was terrible.
It was the worst thing ever.
I'm glad I don't remember the name of the company because it was brutal.
They had two. They had one that was like Game Boy shaped, and they had another that was like a 16:9 screen.
Yeah.
And the 16:9 screen, as far as I could tell, you could not change the aspect ratio, and everything was stretched out and looked awful.
Yeah.
Plus, it was just really poorly built.
Totally brutal. Yeah. The CES experience, I was expecting to see a lot more kind of handheld PC hype.
Yeah.
And I was kind of surprised at how little there has been.
There aren't a lot of... The handheld manufacturers just aren't here, other than obviously like Lenovo, the big companies. But the smaller Chinese companies like Anbernic and Iron Odin.
And even Asus didn't have the Ally there.
No, they didn't. That was really pretty surprising.
Which I was surprised by.
Yeah. They had a lot packed into that booth too. I'm surprised they didn't have more, but that was mostly dedicated to laptop computers more than anything else.
Yeah, they were excited about the new chips.
Yeah.
And all their laptops have the new chip in them. And like truly, those laptops are amazing.
Oh yeah, they look amazing. They look absolutely fantastic. So if you're looking for a gaming window PC, there's some really nice ones coming out. The
all have OLED
the Razer
displays.
Blade 16 looked really nice too. It was a pretty chunky one. They had a couple of different models. One was very heavy. One was nice and.
Well, that was last year's model. That was for comparison.
I didn't realize that. Oh, this was the new one's a lot lighter.
They passed around last year's model and they were like, "That's heavy, right?" And then they passed out the new one.
That's really heavy.
Yeah, which I think again just goes to show how impressive those new NVIDIA cards are.
Yeah, definitely.
In some ways, because it was very impressive.
Well, Brendon, we still have a little time to go. We got another event.
We do. We have another event. We're already fashionably late for it.
All right. Well, that's we will be signing off for now. Our feet hurt, but we've had a good time. I'm sure
we do it for you.
we do.
Viewer.
I'm sure that we have forgotten some things that we have seen, but we will be talking to you again very soon on the official NPC podcast with Federico Viticci, and I'm sure he'll have lots of questions for us.
Yeah. So let's head out. I fly out in the morning. We'll, I'm sure, be writing a bunch of stuff. You for Mac Stories, me for Wavelengths. Talk about it on NPC. Goodbye.
Bye bye.